If you fall in the camp where you say, why would you do this to your yard? This video is not for you.
Yep.
Oh boy, I had to run home for a special delivery. You see that? What do you think that could be? You may be wondering what this is, and I'm excited to tell you what it is. Let's get her unboxed and find out.
Dig Drive DIY.
Well, it got cold, dark, and windy outside, and I brought the pallet in here. We can get a nice, clean, dry look at it, get it assembled. This is a ground buster drop spreader from JR Metals, and there's a few unique characteristics about a drop spreader that are different from a broadcast spreader. And there's a few reasons why I wanted one of these. Number one, it spreads bulk products like bulk egg lime, bulk gypsum, or pelletized gypsum. You can do biosolids. There's a whole host of products that you can buy by the ton in a dump truck, dump them, put them into the spreader and spread them. You can cover more ground with less fills because this will hold nearly 1,000 pounds. There's a few other reasons why I wanted a drop spreader too, and you might be privy to those, but this is the DS5000DX. DX stands for Deluxe. Deluxe means it has two different beaters on the inside that help break up and keep the product moving. They've got a lot of different models too, though. This one holds 1,000 pounds, but they go clear down to, I think, a 300-pound model, the LG 300. So obviously you can check them out if you're interested in a drop spreader. Like I said, there's a lot of reasons why I've chosen to have this. Broadcast spreaders still have their place, but this has a unique spot for me. We got to get some product, and I can't wait to try it out. All right. Well, I think the spreader is all ready to go. I'm headed to our lawn and garden place to get some fertilizer. Then I got to pick up a gravity wagon so I can get pelletized gypsum, and I'll just take you along and show you. Here we are, about to spend some money. All right, I got the fertilizer I'm going to need based on the soil test that we took. So in order to know really what you have to put on your yard, I would always advise to do a soil test. That's what I do for a living. And so I checked out my yard. For the most part, I had a good idea of what I would need on my yard. My yard is well fertilized. It's compacted clay. There's just not enough topsoil right here. But I wanted to test a few areas around the pond that were in question. This is the fill topsoil. This is probably the original topsoil here. And then I also wanted to do a comparison between the old yard in my front yard in front of the house and the new grass that I just planted. So that's why I did that. Rick's yard is a relatively new yard. Got about 2 inches of good topsoil there, and then it really goes to clay. We just worked it, graded it, and seeded it since they built the house less than, well, it's been 5 years ago now, I think. So we took some soil tests there at Rick's, and based on what we saw there, his soil needs more fertility than what mine needs. It is lacking in P and K, phosphorus and potassium. We're also questioning the pH of his soil. So that's where the gypsum comes into play. Gypsum is calcium sulfate, and that should help. Gypsum is just a good product, has a lot of benefits. We won't go into all that right now in this video. So for comparison purposes, we want to get at least one sample out of the woods to kind of get a snapshot of what the virgin soil might have looked like. What I'm saying is, get a soil test, talk to someone that knows, just don't go spread blindly. I mean, you're always okay to spread some nitrogen if you really want to green up your yard, but a lot of times yards don't need much phosphorus at all, and they don't need much potassium. That's why I'm not spreading hardly any on mine, just nitrogen on mine. All right, so now I'm headed over to pick up a wagon, and we use this old gravity wagon to haul the gypsum because we buy it in bulk by the ton. I'm going to be getting about 3 tons of gypsum. We'll put it in the wagon, and I've got a trick with the wagon to make it easy to load the spreader, and you'll see that too. I don't have a hitch pin. Actually, right here's a hitch pin. Wagon mission complete. Now let's head on to get the gypsum. Made it. Normally when we do gypsum, I put that wagon up on top of my equipment trailer so that it's easy to load the spreader. And I got to thinking that I wished I'd had the timing, the sequence to do that. The timing just wasn't right. I was picking the wagon up close to where I needed to get the gypsum, and they were about to close. So do you think I could back that loaded wagon up onto my trailer? I'd say it's worth a try. Okay, well, I'm going to chock the wheels and roll it back a little bit. blocked, chained, secured, not going very far anyway. All right, so it's easy to question whether or not this was worth it. I had to horse around for probably 15 minutes to get that up there, get it squared up. And I think there's a lot of times where you can invest a little bit of time now to save you a lot of time later. And this is what this will be. Because we can back the spreader right up underneath this wagon right here to fill, it's gonna save a lot of time. Plus we're spreading in 4 different locations. So we'll be able to take the dump truck with the wagon to move this, and then the pickup truck can now move the tractor and the spreader. We're gonna spread in the morning, so I got everything kind of staged and ready. That's what we'll do. Okay, we got 1 rig, 2 rigs ready to go. Let's go spread some gypsum. I had a lot of people give me a really hard time about driving 2 miles without my seatbelt on the other day, so this trip here is 1.5 miles, so I do want to get my seatbelt on. It is important to wear your seatbelt, for sure. All right, we're gonna load right here, and then we've got the lane to spread, and we've got up around the house to do. That thing looks good out here, doesn't it? All right, so it looks like our spout, what we got here is that the tires are hitting the tire of the trailer, so that's good because I can't back this into the trailer and scratch it all up. But our spout is just barely, we're gonna spill a lot of product with it like that. You think you got a plan?
I think so.
Okay, we have got our towel in there to keep material from spilling out the back. Extend a chute. And I've taken the grate off the top of this because this is pelletized gypsum and it's relatively clean coming out of the fertilizer plant, so I don't think we'll have any trouble with that. If we were loading with like a payloader or the front of the tractor loader, then I'd want that grate to be on top. But for this, I want to be able to spread the material out. So let's give her a shot. There's 1. 2 is nothing. 3 is, I think, where we're gonna want to be. 4 is right there. That seems like a lot. 5, 6. Wide open. It's going to be a lot of messing around. This is not an exact science. We know that this thing is clear full. It's about 1,000 pounds. And for here at their place, we're going to be spreading about 1,300. So we're going to fill it clear up. We'll just figure it out. See, that's pretty fine stuff, though.
Uh-oh. We got, so I have to go.
Leakage. Grab the rug out from there. Just lay it over the... This is pelletized gypsum. This is actually a product called Sulfur Plus. It's because you spread this a lot of times for the sulfur component of it. But compared to the way we have done it with the broadcast spreader, this will be, we would have spread at least 10 loads with a broadcast spreader. So this is going to eliminate the amount of fills that we have to do. We just have to make sure we're not putting it on too heavy or light. How many notches did I say we're going to spread at?
3.
3. Check the tape. So I put the grate back on in case we got to sit up there because I might sit there to run the gate when it gets hairy. But so this right here is one of the first reasons why I wanted a drop spreader. When you try to broadcast spread along the driveway here, in this place in particular, you're either throwing a bunch of fertilizer or material out into the driveway, or you're spreading it onto the neighbor's farm field. We want to keep our stuff on the grass, so this is a great application where you got a long run like this, put all the product right where it needs to be. Basically, because the spreader doesn't drop, it doesn't drop exactly the width, we're gonna have to use the spreader tire on the inside of my last track, of Rick's last track. So. All right, so we have spread 2 full spreader loads. The spreader works great, no issue there. I think it's probably a little bit higher rate than what we wanted, but we can't fine tune. It's either on the number 2 setting, it's barely coming out, and on the number 3, it's coming out maybe a little bit too aggressive. Maybe this would be better suited for the fertilizer grate that goes to the bottom. So we got plenty of options. We're just trying to figure it out. The beauty of this stuff is like I said, you really can't overdo it. So even if we're getting on more than 1,000 pounds per acre, in a farm field, it's not uncommon to put this on at, well, not pelletized gypsum, but regular gypsum we put on at 2 tons the acre sometimes. So for up here along the house, I could argue that a broadcast spreader is just as effective, and I'd be perfectly happy with that. But in here along the edge of the driveway, again, and amongst the trees, I'm putting all my product straight down rather than blowing it out into the woods or into the driveway. So we're almost done here and then we'll head to my house. Riding on top of the spreader isn't ideal, but it's the situation we have. If you don't like that, I understand. We don't like it 100%, but it's a calculated risk. All right, we pretty much got stuff wrapped up here. We did 3 full spreader loads. That got really good coverage on everything. And this tractor looked good against this red house. Golly, matches the yellow wreath on the door. All right, we have made it back to the shop, and I decided, since we didn't have a lot of variability in our control with the gate opening with this screen on it, and you can see how wide these holes are. Since the pelletized gypsum is so fine, I think we need more control. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the fertilizer gate on there and see if that would maybe slow it down a little bit. We'll have to open the gate probably a little bit wider to get the same coverage, but I don't know. I think that might be a try. All right, so we got this plate changed out for the fertilizer plate that they included. We're going to try it on notch number 3, and I marked places on there. My yard doesn't need nearly as much gypsum because I put some on last fall, and so I want the rate to be a little bit less than what we were doing at Rick's. So we're going to go try this, and this will tell us what we need to know for applying fertilizer too. Well, as you might have guessed, this is the second main reason why I wanted the drop spreader. Obviously, if I had been spreading any kind of fertilizer around here with a broadcast spreader, part of it's going to wind up out in the water, part of it's going to wind up out in the field, and part of it's going to wind up on the concrete. We've got all our gypsum done over at my in-laws and here at our place. Now I just got to do my mom and dad's and my brother's house. So here are 2 examples of bulk agricultural products that farmers spread on their fields based on whatever needs their soil tests tell them. We've got some calcium lime right here that comes from our water filtration plant in our city nearby. And this is actually a biosolid product. It's a byproduct of a sewage treatment plant. It actually has some lime in it, which provides a calcium source. It also has phosphorus in it and sulfur, and it's a product of treating human waste. It comes from another municipality that's not too far from here. But these products can be purchased in bulk by the dump truck load, and they're spread on our farm fields at a rate of 1 to 2 tons per acre. Now that's not always very useful for a yard situation, but it is useful in new seeding operations or new yard installations or yards where there has a lot of subsoil that's been put on top and you're trying to correct that. So these don't usually classify as a fertilizer, although they could be because they do have fertilizer elements to them. These are more of a soil amendment because we're putting them on in high quantities, and we're trying to correct some soil structure difficulty that we've witnessed from the soil test. So you would use the calcium lime a lot of times when your pH is out of whack. If your soil is too acidic, you would add a calcium product in order to raise that pH and have better soil structure. The biosolids are a great fit because, number one, they're a byproduct, so they can be obtained relatively inexpensively, and they provide a good phosphorus source, and they've also got that calcium component and sulfur. So in a new seeding situation or a new yard, or let's say you dig a pond and you want to put in grass around it, these could be a good fit to try to correct soil structure problems. So I've always wanted something that I could spread on a small scale with these because, once again, these get spread with big, large agricultural broadcast spinner type spreaders, and they would just throw the material 60 feet wide, and it's not practical for what I want. I think this spreader is going to be the perfect application. So not only can I do the pelletized gypsum or fertilizer on my lawn, I'll be able to use it to spread this kind of stuff. This is purpose built for this, so I'm hoping it works well. It's also popular to spread this kind of stuff on deer food plots and recreational areas that you can't just get into with the big, large agricultural equipment. So there's definitely a demand for a spreader like this, and I'm super excited to have the ability to do it now. I had a little plug right here in the center. You can see it. I found it was a stick, but man, I could see it and I got it out of there. And it stops when I stop because of the nature of this product, but it's going down quick. These piles belong to my farming relatives, and I've asked them if I can get a scoop or two for demonstration purposes, and I want to spread some down on the wood yard. I'm going to spread a little bit of biosolids down there to get a little boost to the ryegrass. Normally they've planted a cover crop there, and normally they would kill it off in the spring right ahead of their cash crop, but since I want to keep it around and probably plant some more grass in that area, I'm going to hit it with a little biosolids, give it a little boost here this spring, and hopefully get it greened up and looking nice. So the main point of this spreader was so that I could spread stuff like this. Well, that bio line was by far too wet to be using in this spreader, but it still got it done. It did cake up a little bit and I had to knock it down in there between spreads while I was going out here, but if you were going to use this on a regular basis, you want to make sure that you run dry material through it, and the finer the better. But I am impressed with this Ground Buster by JR Metals. I think it would make a great solution for a lot of folks, especially if you have some small acreage or a hobby farm or some pasture. Obviously in my case, I want to use it around the pond for fertilizer and gypsum. It works great. So thanks a lot to JR Metal Products and their Ground Buster drop spreader for sponsoring this video. I think it works great. If you want to know more about them, I'll have links down below to their website. Be sure to reach out and ask them of any questions you might have. Otherwise, spring is almost here and we're going to see the results of all these spreading efforts soon enough. So hopefully, if I'm lucky, you'll be back to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. I get two groups of people. Wow, what do you do for your yard to make it look like that? It looks so good and I love it, and tell me more. And then the other group says, why would you waste so much time and effort on your yard?
You just have to mow it more.
Yeah. If you fall in the camp where you say, why would you do this to your yard, this video is not for you.
Yep.